Hi, I'm Inayatullah and I'll be talking about machine unlearning via algorithmic stability. This is joint work with Tung Mai, Anup Rao, Ryan Rossi, and Raman Arora. The basic unlearning problem is as follows. We have some machine learning task and a given dataset S. We apply some accurate algorithm A to get A of S. We then get a request to delete some point Z which was present in the dataset. We now apply algorithm U, which takes A of S and Z, and we want its output to be approximately equal to what we would have obtained had we applied A to the dataset without the point Z. Note that there's a trivial solution, which is to recompute, but often this is computationally expensive, and the main objective is to do better. The motivation for this problem is privacy laws. Currently, a lot of services and analysis is user data driven, like recommendation systems. This has resulted in regulatory bodies enacting laws which aim to empower users with more control over their data. In particular, European Union GDPR is one such regulation. The articles shown at a high level say that a user can request to have their data deleted, and there are other such laws. But what does it mean to delete data or to unlearn? In particular, what is the appropriate notion of approximation here? There are many considered in the literature. We use the strictest notion, which we call exact unlearning. I will define exact unlearning formally now. Let Z be the data domain. Let W be the output space. This is what we want to compute. Let M be the metadata domain. This could be additional information the algorithm saves to aid during unlearning. A learning algorithm takes a sequence of data points and produces a model and perhaps some metadata. An unlearning algorithm takes in those and a point to be deleted and updates them. By exact unlearning, what we want is for all datasets and point Z, these two quantities should be equal. In particular, if the algorithms are randomized, which will be the case for us, these should be equal in distribution, which means that the probability of any event under both of these are equal. Note that these quantities include the additional metadata the algorithm saves. Informally, we can summarize the definition by the condition that the system state is set to what it would have been had the deleted point been absent to begin with. We now come to the problem setup. Instead of an isolated deletion request, we'll look at a stream of deletions as well as insertions. So we start with a data set of n points, apply algorithm A, which outputs a model and metadata. We get an edit request, we update both using U, and this goes on. We assume that the number of data points at any point in the stream is between n over 2 and 2n. The machine learning setting that we'll look at is the standard setting of smooth convex empirical risk minimization. We are given a constraint set W, which lives in Rd. It is closed and bounded. We have a data set of n points. We have some loss function which maps from W and the data domain to some real number. We assume that the loss is convex, Lipschitz, and smooth with respect to W. In empirical risk minimization, we want to find the model which minimizes the training loss, which is the average loss over data points. This class of problems captures many machine learning problems like linear and logistic regression, and this is fairly general to be useful even beyond. Our main result is the following. We give algorithms A and U such that for any Lipschitz smooth convex F stream of edits and a parameter rho, it satisfies exact unlearning at every point in the stream. Its accuracy at every point in the stream, measured in excess empirical risk, is bounded by some quantity which I'll come back to. The expected total unlearning time for k edits is rho times k times training time. Rho here is an external parameter which controls the trade-off between accuracy and unlearning time. Note that the unlearning time is stated as if the algorithm recomputes a fraction of times. This is indeed the nature of our methods. The accuracy is minimum of two quantities. For high dimensions, the minimum term is 1 over square root rho n, whereas for low dimension, the minimum term is the second one. The training time above is the runtime of algorithm A for the shown accuracy. Since we are writing unlearning time in terms of training time, in order to compare against any retraining algorithm, it is important to have that the training time of proposed algorithms is small. A standard way to measure complexity in convex optimization is to count how many gradient computation an algorithm does. In our case, for the above accuracy, it has optimal gradient complexity. This result is a strict improvement in the low accuracy regime. What I mean is, suppose we fix an accuracy alpha greater than the quantity shown, then there exists a row smaller than 1 such that we can use it to instantiate the above result. Then the unlearning time is strictly smaller than the recompute time for the same accuracy. This low accuracy regime is interesting for machine learning purposes because of their statistical nature. Briefly, we typically assume that the data points are sampled IID and the goal is to minimize population risk, that is test error. Our guarantees translated to population risk gives the following upper bound. Note that a smaller excess empirical risk would only contribute as a lower order term here. Our results extend to non-convex settings. Moreover, in some cases, our algorithms are differentially private as well. We now give an overview of the key ideas and techniques. The main idea is a notion of algorithmic stability, which we call total variation stability. We say that an algorithm is rho TV stable if for all data sets differing in one sample, the total variation distance between the algorithm's outputs on the data sets is at most rho. The motivation for the above is the maximal coupling characterization of TV distance. A coupling of two probability distributions P and Q is a joint distribution with marginals being P and Q. The TV distance between P and Q can be defined as the minimum expected disagreement of samples drawn over all couplings of P and Q. The coupling which achieves the minimum above is called a maximal coupling. When sampled from a maximal coupling, we have that only TV fraction of samples differ. In our context, P and Q would be the algorithm's outputs on datasets before and after an edit, and a maximal coupling would ensure that we can reuse the previous outputs. To make the above ideas constructive, we will need a TV stable algorithm. What we proposed is based on a variant of gradient descent, and we will need a corresponding unlearning algorithm, which constructs a coupling. This should be efficient, that is faster than retraining, and near maximal, so it recomputes only a few times. We will see that indeed our proposed algorithms perform a computationally cheap verification for most edits, and for some it does a partial recomputation. We construct such a coupling via rejection sampling and reflection coupling techniques. We now discuss the TV stable algorithm. It is a variant of gradient descent, which we call noisy mini-batch stochastic gradient descent. The algorithm proceeds in iteration. In every iteration, it subsamples a mini batch of size m out of n data points uniformly randomly. In the next step, we compute a linear combination of the previous two iterates. This is part of the acceleration step. We then compute a stochastic gradient, which is just the average gradient on the subsampled points. We then sample a noise vector from a spherical multivariate Gaussian of variance sigma square. We do a gradient descent update with the noise. We then save these to memory. This is the metadata that the unlearning algorithm will use. These noisy gradient algorithms are used in differentially private convex optimization, and this is the reasons our algorithms are differentially private as well. We now state some guarantees about this algorithm. Upon setting the parameters appropriately, we have that for any row between 0 and 1 and a Lipschitz convex function f and a dataset, this algorithm is rho TV stable and its accuracy is minimum of the quantity shown. Again, the first term is the minimum in high dimensions, whereas the second term is the minimum in low dimensions. To assess how far our proposed algorithm from the most accurate among the class of TV stable algorithms, we provide lower bounds in accuracy. Our lower bounds are tight for constant dimension, but for general D, either there is a gap or the results are established under additional assumptions. Closing this gap is one of the open questions from this work. We now describe the unlearning algorithm. We first remark that the techniques won't require smoothness or convexity, and that's why the non-convex results simply follow. We restate the equations from the algorithm noisy accelerated minibast SGD, which we presented before. It is easy to see that these random variables can be described by a Markov chain as shown. The state space of the Markov chain is R to the D times a discrete set of all combinations of size m from 1 to n. The transitions are given as follows. At every step, we sample the mini batch BT, and dependent on BT as well as the previous two iterates, we transition to the next state. This kappa function describes the above equations. The idea behind our unlearning method is to couple the entire optimization trajectories for neighboring datasets. So from the formalism of Markov chains discussed, it is a question of coupling Markov chains. Given two datasets S and S prime differing in one sample, let these be the Markov chains shown in blue and red for the optimization algorithm on the dataset. We will refer to them as blue and red variables. We will now describe how to couple these. Instead of looking at noisy accelerated minibast SGD, let us look at simpler methods since the core ideas are apparent there as well. So if we look at SGD with no acceleration, these are the Markov chains that we get. Even simpler are Markov chains for gradient descent, wherein there's no subsampling of mini batches. We will now look at how to couple just one step of gradient descent. We have that W2 are distributed as Gaussians, with mean being W1 minus eta, the gradient at W1. This is just the gradient descent update. The variance is the same for both these data sets. The way we couple these is the following. I recall the definition of W2. The term nabla fs W1 is the sum of gradients over the data points. Since two data sets differ by just 1 point, we can compute the mean of the red Gaussian by just subtracting one term. So if jth data point is deleted, we just need one gradient query and we need to subtract it from the sum gradient with some appropriate scaling. This takes constant time. This is where we leverage the finite sum structure in the ERM problem. Finally, we also have that the mean of these Gaussians are close. The distance is eta times the gradient norm at the deleted point divided by n. And the norm is at most g from Lipschitzness. We will now describe how to couple these Gaussians. Recall the equation for W2, which was sampled during training. We use a simple rejection sampling to construct the coupling. We sample a uniform random variable between 0 and phi p W2. Phi p is the Gaussian density for blue Gaussian. If the uniform random variable lies below the red Gaussian, then we accept. So we use the same W2. If it doesn't, then what we do is called a reflection step. This is a classical idea in probability. It just reflects W2 about the midpoint of the means of the Gaussians. The same thing in 2 dimensions looks like the following. The contours shown are the two Gaussians. The reflection steps just reflects the point about the midpoint of the means. Moreover, there's nothing special about the midpoint. We can reflect about the perpendicular bisector or the functions work as well. The important thing to note is that the runtime of this whole procedure is a constant. This was just one step of gradient descent. For the whole gradient descent chain, we do the above iteratively. So at every iteration, we do rejection sampling. If it results in accept, we proceed to the next iteration. If it results in reject, then we reflect and continue sampling from the second Markov chain, which just corresponds to retraining from next iteration onwards. We have that the whole sequence of iterates are coupled. Unfortunately, this is not a maximal coupling. It is suboptimal by a factor of square root t. This is part of our results, and an interesting question is to try to remove it. This is also the reason why we use acceleration, since it has smaller iteration complexity. So this was about full gradient method. We know that for finite sum optimization, these full gradient methods are suboptimal, and we should instead use stochastic gradient methods. So next we will look at SGD. This is the graphical model of just one step of SGD. We first need to couple the mini batches. Note that the blue B1 was sampled during training. We can generate the red B1 from the blue B1 from simple resampling strategies. If we are given to delete point j, we just check if j was used. If it was, we replace it with a random point. If not, we use the same B1. We can do similar resampling for the insertion case as well. The sampled mini batches are maximally coupled. Next, we will see how to couple both the mini batch and the iterate in a stochastic gradient step. Here we have a few options. What we can do is we can do rejection sampling using the joint densities of B1 W2, but this results in a small accept probability. Ideally, what we want to do is to do rejection sampling with the marginal of W2. The marginal can be written as follows. The terms in the sum end are easy to compute, but this is a sum over all choices of B, which is n choose m. So computing this is infeasible. What we propose is to estimate the marginal density by conditional density, where the conditioning is on the subsampled mini batch. We then do rejection sampling using the estimated marginal density. We will now state the final unlearning algorithm. We again proceed in iterations. We first couple the mini batches. We then estimate the marginal density using the conditional density and the coupled mini batches. We do rejection sampling using these estimated densities. If the result is accept, we proceed to the next iteration. Otherwise, we do a reflection step and continue returning from next iteration onwards. We show that the joint distribution of the sequence of mini batches and iterates are coupled. As before, this is not a maximal coupling, but rather suboptimal by square root t. Importantly, the runtime of verification, that is simply doing rejection sampling, is just t times m over n, whereas the runtime for returning is t times m. This, together with the coupling guarantee, gives the following unlearning time. Substituting the right values of parameters recovers our result. Finally, we will discuss some empirical results. We train a logistic regression on MNIST dataset. We simulate a sequence of 600 edits comprised of 300 deletions and 300 insertions. We run experiments with the proposed algorithm for a fixed mini batch and number of iterations, and with various values of the noise variance. This is the x-axis. The first y-axis is the number of unstable edits. That is the number of times the retraining is triggered. The second y-axis is the test accuracy of the algorithm. We see that as we add more and more noise, the accuracy degrades, but we also have that the number of unstable edits decrease. This trade-off was part of our main theoretical result. To conclude, we studied exact unlearning in smooth convex ERM. We proposed algorithms based on total variation, stability, and couplings. Some questions that remain are the following. Currently, there are two gaps in our results. The first is to design an optimal TV stable algorithm or to give better lower bounds. Second is if we can construct an efficient maximal coupling for unlearning. Besides these specific questions, we want to see if this framework is applicable more broadly to other problems. Thank you.